Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make chocolate fudge cookies, and this is what they look like. This cookie, it's all about the chocolate. The batter contains 1 pound, 450 grams of chocolate, along with dark and white chocolate chips. So if you love chocolate, you're going to love these. And the texture of these cookies is soft and fudgy. They're just so good. So before we make the batter, we have to do a couple of things. So first, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius, because the cookie also contains some nuts. And I like to toast my nuts because I think it really brings out their flavor. Now you will need 1 cup, which is 110 grams of, today I'm using pecans. I really like using pecans here because pecans, when they're toasted, taste almost like caramel. And when you mix that with the chocolate, it's perfect, to me. But other really good ones, hazelnuts, I like hazelnuts. Well, actually I like them all. Hazelnuts, walnuts, almonds, or pecans. 1 cup, 110 grams. Just put them on a baking sheet, put them in the oven for kind of 8 to 10 minutes. But really, how you tell they're done is you can start to smell them, and that's when you take them out of the oven. Then let them cool, and I've already done all this. And then you just want to coarsely chop. So that's that. The second thing we need to do is to melt all that chocolate. So you will need a saucepan of simmering water. And then in a heat-proof bowl, I like to use stainless steel. I have 1 pound, 450 grams. Now you can use either a semi-sweet or a bittersweet chocolate. First off, when you're baking with chocolate, if you wouldn't take this piece and eat it and go, wow, I like that, then don't bake with it. Like some people, a bittersweet is bitter. So if you don't like to eat that, like out of hand, then don't bake with it. Just for reference, a semi-sweet is kind of like in the 55 to say 60% cocoa content, and then bittersweets up further than that. Today I'm using a 70%. I do like the bittersweet chocolate in this cookie, but like I said, taste it. You can go on your baking aisle and find chocolate. You can go on the candy aisle and just buy like a chocolate bar. And really most chocolate bars, or even on the baking aisle, the chocolate will tell you, it'll have in big letters, 55% cocoa content, 70%. So that's how you know what to buy. And then I used 70%, I said, and then chocolate bar, and then I've just kind of coarsely broken it up with my fingers. And to that I'm adding just 1/4 cup, that's 55 grams of butter. You can use salted or unsalted here. And I just cut it into little chunks so it'll melt faster. When you melt chocolate, I mean, when I say simmering water, if you can see this, it's not bubbling. It's just barely. You don't want really hot water when you're melting your chocolate. You want it to melt slowly because you don't want to overheat it and scorch it. And stir it every once in a while. And as soon as it's melted, take it off the heat. Don't let it sit over that pot once it's melted. Okay, so our chocolate is melted, so take it off the heat. Quick stir. Just put that aside. I'm going to let that cool down, and I'm going to take a little break here to set up, and we will come back and make our batter. So now to make our cookie batter. If you have a stand mixer like I have here, use your paddle attachment, or you could use a hand mixer for this. Now this batter is quite a bit different than most cookie batters. Most cookie batters, you beat the butter with the sugar, then the eggs, then the flour. This is more like actually, I kind of call these cookies a chocolate, kind of like a chocolate torte in cookie form, because the batter is made similar to that, or a sponge cake, where we're going to beat the eggs with the sugar until they're really thick and light colored. And that's going to be good because, you know, we have a lot of chocolate, and doing that's going to have a really nice light eggs and sugar will lighten up our chocolate. So in your bowl of your mixer, you will need 4 large eggs. Have your eggs at room temperature. Now, 4 large eggs out of the shell is 200 grams. And to that, I'm adding 1 3/4 cups, which is 350 grams of granulated white sugar. Let's put that right in there. And then I'm going to beat this on medium-high speed till the mixture becomes really thick and very light colored. Now that's going to take, with this one, probably about 5 minutes. Could take longer depending on if you're using a hand mixer, probably take a little longer than that. So don't panic, it does take a while. Okay, looks good. Isn't it amazing? We just took a little eggs, sugar, and then it whips up like this. So, let's stir it, and then nice and thick. That's what you're looking for. That's going to really lighten the texture of that chocolate and give us this really soft, wonderful cookie. You can tell I like them. So now for flavoring, I'm adding 1 tablespoon, which is 12 grams of pure vanilla extract. And I'm just going to beat that in. Okay, and next, our chocolate. So the reason we melted the chocolate at the beginning was so that it could cool down while we beat this. So I'm just going to feel it. Taste it. You want it room, you know, just can be a little warm, but at room temperature. It's perfect. Of course, we had to try that to make sure. So I'm just going to... Okay, get it all, or most of it. So now I'm just going to beat that in on medium speed. Okay. Oh, looks wonderful. So now in a separate bowl, we don't have a lot of flour, just a 1/2 cup, which is 60 grams of cake flour. Cake flour is like low gluten flour, and if you use it in cakes or even cookies, it helps to give them a soft and tender crumb. Now, if you don't have cake flour, I've also just used an equal amount of all-purpose flour, so don't worry about it. I know some people in some countries you can't find cake flour, so just use your all-purpose plain flour. To that, I'm adding 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of baking powder. Going to help give it a little lift to our cookies. 1/4 teaspoon, just 1 gram. I'm using a fine kosher salt. And I like to add 1 teaspoon, which is just about 1 gram, of instant either coffee powder or instant espresso powder. You know, if you add a little bit of coffee when you're making something chocolate, it really kind of just accentuates the flavor of the chocolate, really helps bring it out. I mean, you don't have to. You could leave it out if you don't like coffee or you don't have any in the house. You can leave it out. So I'm just going to add that. Now you can just fold this in or beat it in just on low speed, just until it's all mixed in. Okay, good enough. I'll do the rest by hand here because we've got our add-ins. As if we didn't have enough chocolate, we are going to add 1 cup each, which is 170 grams, 1 cup of dark chocolate chips. By that I mean you could use a semi-sweet, bittersweet. You could even use a milk chocolate chip. And I'm also adding 1 cup, 170 grams of white chocolate chips. Yum, yum. One place we used to live, my friends, my neighbors, all the women, I would have to periodically make a batch of these and give, a couple to each person. And they wouldn't share it with the kids, just for the women. So I can attest that women love these cookies. So I'm going to add the chocolate chips along with our nuts and fold it in. This makes a large batch. You could just half the recipe, which means half all the ingredients, or you could make a large batch, share with your friends and neighbors, or they even freeze really well. I eat them cold, like frozen right out of the freezer. So now, once we have the batter, it's a little soft. So I'm going to cover it and refrigerate it. I only want to refrigerate it, not very long, maybe 30, 60 minutes, just until it gets thick enough that I can form it into round cookies. You don't want to leave it, like sometimes I forgot about it and several hours later, it will like freeze hard. So, which is fine. You can just leave it out for a little bit so it softens up. But it's best to kind of watch it. And I'm going to say 30 to 60 minutes. And then when we come back, we will bake off our cookies. So now we are ready to bake off our cookies. So preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius. And then you will need a baking sheet. I've lined mine with parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you just lightly butter it or even spray it with one of those non-stick vegetable cooking sprays. So now, I like jumbo cookies. You can make them any size you want, but I'm using 1/4 cup of batter. Let's put that size, which is 60 grams if you want to use your scale and weigh them. Or you could do what I'm doing here, and this is a cookie scoop. That's 1/4 cup. So have it, like that. A mound, and then probably have to, moisten your fingers just a little and flatten it into kind of a round. That's maybe what, a 1/2 inch thick, about 1 centimeter. The important thing is to have them all like the same size, like the same amount of batter, and then the same thickness so that they'll all bake in the same amount of time. So I'm only putting 6 on one sheet because they do spread and they're jumbo. This will give you, if you do them the size I'm doing here, that'll give you about 26 cookies for reference. So now to bake them, I'm going to say, because everybody's oven is different, somewhere between 10 and 14 minutes. You really, with chocolate, with these ones, you don't want to overbake them. Of course, any cookie, if you overbake, a little dry, which we don't want with our chocolate. So what you're looking for, the surface will be kind of shiny and you'll get cracks in it. They're going to spread. The outside will be firm, but the centers will still look almost like underdone. And that's the way I personally like mine. I like them quite soft and dense. I guess maybe people would call them a little underbaked. I don't, but that's how I like them, where the centers are still quite soft. I do rotate my baking sheet halfway through baking just because your oven normally has hot spots. So I'm going to say 10 to 14 minutes. Our chocolate fudge cookies are done. So put your baking sheet on a wire rack. So this is what they look like. If I feel the outside's still set, but the centers still look a little almost wet. Well, I wouldn't say wet, but they're really soft. And you can see there's cracks. That's the way they should look. So now they are really soft. So I'm going to leave them 5-10 minutes on the baking sheet like that and then I'll take my spatula and transfer them over to a wire rack to finish cooling. When that's done, we will come back and try one. So they've cooled down. They're still a little warm, but let's try one. So I'm just going to, oh, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? I love these cookies. What can I say? I mean, with that amount of chocolate chips and nuts, they're wonderful. If you like chocolate, obviously you need to like chocolate to like this cookie. The chocolate flavor is pretty intense. The texture is soft, but quite dense. I really think it kind of tastes like a chocolate torte in cookie form, if you've ever had a chocolate torte. With making that batter and whipping the egg whites, the eggs and the sugar, it really lightens the texture of the chocolate. So they're actually surprising. While they're dense, they're actually fairly light. Really need a cup of coffee with this, or cold glass of milk is wonderful too. And you can store these for a few days, room temperature, or if you like your chocolate cold, in the refrigerator. They freeze really well. You know, give them to your friends, give them to your neighbors. You know, they'll like you if you do that. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.